Hi, and welcome to this week's EBC. We're at Casperson Park. We're here at sunrise, and we're thinking about Easter Sunday morning. It is here. It is Luke 24, verses 1 through 12 this week. But before we get to the story itself, I want to ask you a question that I saw on social media this week. Do you believe that Jesus died and 3 days later rose from the dead? Now, for those of us who celebrate Easter, the easy answer, let's say, is yes. And in fact, when you see the responses to that question on social media, there are some people who just fire off the answer, no doubt, no doubt. And there are some people who, sort of answer it, I want to believe. There are some people who change the question and say, do you really believe that Jesus died and rose 3 days later? And you can tell that some of the people writing that don't mean that in the nicest possible way. It's sort of a mean-spirited question, like, really? Doesn't that just sound a little preposterous? And I want to pause for a moment, because putting us in the position of thinking that in order to be good Christians, we must just fire off the no doubt response is not what Easter was all about. In Luke 24, on the first day of the week, the women go to the tomb. And they are not going to the tomb to celebrate Jesus having risen from the dead. They are going to the tomb still all in the funeral thought. Still all in the idea that they're bringing the spices for the body. Still believing that they are going to be mourning Jesus laying in the tomb. They have been with Jesus. They have heard everything he'd said. And at that moment, they still think the worst. They still don't believe. And in Luke, unlike some of the other Gospels, in fact, they never see Jesus, even in that moment, somewhat like we never have gotten to see Jesus. But when they get there, they're perplexed by the fact that the tomb is empty. And suddenly, two men in dazzling white clothes are next to them and asking them the question, the beautiful question, why do you look for the living among the dead? And then they remember everything that Jesus had told them. And they rush back to the other disciples. And when they get to the disciples, this is not a moment of just, again, instant, no doubt belief. They tell the disciples. And Luke uses another really beautiful phrase here, because what he winds up saying is that the disciples believe this to be an idle tale. Again, not instant belief. But then Peter races off to the tomb and finds it empty and is amazed at what he's seen. So it's okay if we're still coming to faith on Easter morning, because the women were still coming to faith. Peter, the rock, was still coming to faith. The disciples would still yet come to faith. The question now for Easter morning is, what do we do with that? What do we do when there are skeptical people challenging us? What do we do when there are people who don't believe? What do we do amongst all of our brothers and sisters who do believe? How do we respond to the gift of Jesus' resurrection with the service and love that he has commanded us? Everyone, celebrate Jesus as the risen Lord this Easter, and then respond with love and service of others. Have a great week.